It is 6:31. We will call this regular board meeting to order. Mr. Secretary, would you please establish if we have a quorum?
Mr. President, we have a quorum.
Thank you, sir. For the record, all members are present and we do have a quorum. So we will now move on to the next agenda item. This is a pledge of the United States flag and the Texas flag. And actually we have the kids from Jefferson, so Ms. White, would you bring them up and have them lead us in the pledge, please? All right, thank you.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state under God, one and indivisible.
Thank you very much. Kids, y'all can go ahead and stay there. We will now have a moment of silence. Thank you. All right, we'll move on to the next agenda item. This is the superintendent announcements. Ms. Jerome.
Welcome, kids. Y'all ready? Okay. It's going to take a few minutes for me to get through this. Yes, chill. Good evening. It's great to see you and see so many of the Seguin ISD family tonight. Our students continue to make great strides in and out of the classroom, and it's a pleasure to share some of those with you this evening. The Seguin High School Band has been bringing home numerous awards each weekend throughout the month of October. Most recently, on Saturday, the Matador Band competed at the UIL Region 12 Marching in San Antonio. The band earned superior first division ratings from all three judges. The band's final contest of the season is November 12th. Matador Percussion will compete in the Lone Star Percussion Contest in Flower Mound. Again, these awards are on top of many awards earned by band over the last several weekends. Craig Turner serves as the high school percussion director, while Stan Malden is the Seguin High School director of bands. Keep up the great work, band. Speaking of the band, we had several band members play the fight song for our principals during last week's principals meeting here at the district office. It's Principals Month in Texas, and we wanted to do something special for them. Our campus principals do a tremendous job, and I'm grateful for each one that we have at Seguin ISD. I want all of our principals to know that I support you, the board supports you, and the administration supports you. Thank you for doing a great job, and it requires a multitude of skills across all levels. Our success is a direct result of your fine leadership. Last week I was able to meet with our 6 Seguin High School students who have earned a spot in the all-region choir. These students will be performing with the mixed choir and all-region treble choir. A total of 4 students from Barnes and Breezemeister received all-region honors. The Seguin High School choir director is Leo Garcia, while Perry Dean directs at Barnes and Samuel Parrott at Breezemeister. The Matador varsity volleyball team has continued to make strides this season during district play, and the great news is that these young ladies have earned a spot in the playoffs. Welcome to the playoffs, go Matt! They are playing their last regular season game tonight as we speak, so they're going to win, of course. I have heard from reliable sources that our first playoff match will be a week from today at 7:30 p.m. at Lehman High School. Good luck, ladies, and thank you for representing Seguin in the playoffs. Last Friday night at Matador Stadium, it was pretty exciting, to say the least. Not only were there homecoming festivals, but our offense and defense were in sync as the Matadors beat Marble Falls 66-21. We wish our athletes, band, and cheer squad, plus coaches, staff, and volunteers, safe travels as they go to Kerrville on Friday. Last week I had an opportunity to visit the Transportation Department staff after they finished their morning routes and encouraged them to keep up the great work. We celebrated National School Bus Safety Week, and I appreciated the fact that Randolph Brooks Federal Credit Union purchased breakfast tacos for all of our drivers. Seguin ISD bus drivers have a tremendous responsibility to safely transport students across the district 365 square mile day in and out every day. And so I appreciate all the work that they do. Beginning November 7th, we will offer 2 additional half-day pre-kindergarten sessions at Ball Early Childhood Center. We already have a teacher shadowing and setting up her classroom to welcome these new students. Currently, we have 44 students on the pre-K waiting list, and I am glad to report that we will be able to service all of these students. A pre-K grant will cover the associated expenses. It's important that we understand that there's been a waiting list for years, and we've just eliminated it. It took dedication, but I want our kids to get off the waiting list and get in the classroom. It's very important to this board, and it was one of the things that they charged me with when I accepted this position. It's taken 18 months, we've worked together, we've gotten grants, and now those kids are going into the classroom. So again, thanks to everybody that put this work forward and was dedicated enough to roll up their sleeves and find a way to get it done. So I want to applaud that. Seguin High School's Theater Arts Department is performing James and the Giant Peach Jr. at a total of 4 times over the next 2 days. Our students have been preparing and rehearsing for weeks, so I encourage our community to see the performances at TLU Jackson Auditorium. For a complete list of showtimes, please visit our website. I'll close with a reminder that early voting in the general election started yesterday. District office is an early voting site, and registered voters can cast an early ballot over the next 2 weeks. For early voting information, please visit the Seguin ISD website. Thank you, and again, go Mats!
Any questions for Mr. Rowe from the board members? Okay, thank you, Mr. Rowe. Hearing none, we'll move on to the next agenda item. This is a report of the campus recognition presentation. We will first start off with the campus recognition for Jefferson Elementary School. Ms. White.
Good evening, President Flores, members of the board, Mr. Rowe. We are very pleased to be here with you tonight. And I would like to take just a second or two to tell you again, thank you so much as a school board, how much you support our 5th grade field trip to the HEB Foundation camp. Our 5th graders are taking that trip tomorrow. We're looking forward to incorporating their science learning into that wonderful field experience. So we really appreciate your support. We have with us tonight Mr. Bretsky, our assistant principal at Jefferson, and Mrs. Pate, who is our school counselor, and she has organized our presentation for us tonight. So Mrs. Pate.
Thank you guys. As most of you probably know, it's Red Ribbon Week and we've celebrated it for years and years. But you may ask yourself, why do we? How did it start? When did it start? We've all just taken it for granted, so I'm hoping our wonderful Jefferson students will answer some of those questions for you guys tonight.
Drug enforcement agent Camaranes was working in Mexico and was hot on the trail of bad guys selling drugs. One day he left his office to meet his wife for lunch, and 5 bad guys grabbed him and shoved him into a car. They did not know what happened, but 1 month later they found his body and realized he had been killed.
In honor of Agent Camarina's memory and his fight against drug dealers, his friends and neighbors in his hometown in California began to wear red badges of satin.
The following year, the California PTA started the first Red Ribbon campaign. Then in 1988, President Ronald Reagan declared a National Red Ribbon Week take place in October every year.
It has become a symbol of support for the Drug Enforcement Agency to keep working against the bad guys and for us to stand up against drugs and alcohol.
Since the start of Red Ribbon Week, it has reached millions of United States children and families.
Our school makes Red Ribbon Week so fun by dressing up, doing special things in PE, and getting prizes.
We even all made a pledge for Red Ribbon Week.
After me. I pledge to be a good example
I pledge to be a good example
for my friends,
for my friends,
my family members,
family members,
and classmates
and classmates
by not using drugs,
by not using drugs,
alcohol,
alcohol,
or tobacco.
or tobacco.
And thank you, parents, for bringing your kids here to present for us. Give them a few minutes. Round of applause for the parents as well, please. All right, that's the stuff that we like. All right, we will move on to the next agenda item. It's going to be hard to top that, but this is also bittersweet. Agenda item here. This is a service recognition for board member Mr. Louis Q. Reyes III. Mr. Reyes, would you please make your way to the front along Mr. Road? I'm going to read a couple things. Mr. Reyes, do you want to stay here or you want to check up? Okay, please. Thank you, sir. As they make their way, some of you may know that we had a ceremony for recognition for Mr. Reyes here in the other room an hour ago. We give a little bio of Mr. Reyes' service recognition. Mr. Reyes was first elected to Seguin ISD Board of Trustees in May 1992. A graduate of Seguin High School and San Antonio Community College, where he majored in accounting, Mr. Louis Q. Reyes III was the first Hispanic president of Seguin ISD Board of Trustees. His list of achievements include numerous business and community and academic-related accomplishments, including service with the Seguin Hispanic Chamber of Commerce, South Texas Youth Dare Rally, the Mexican American Chamber of Commerce, and president of the Mexican American School Board Association, known as MASBA. During his tenure of more than 24 years, Mr. Reyes was instrumental in bringing the Naval Junior ROTC program to Seguin High School. He collaborated closely with Congressman Ruben Hinojosa and district staff to create the early college high school program at Seguin High School. Mr. Reyes' long-lasting initiatives to positively impact Seguin ISD students over many years include the following. Of course, the Seguin High School Naval Junior ROTC program, the Mercer Bluebird Learning Center, fall of 1994, the Erskine Health Academy, fall of 2013, Early College High School, fall of 2014. He was also instrumental in opening the district facilities of Jim Barnes Middle School, Wall Early Childhood Center, Orelli Rodriguez Elementary, Seguin High School Band Hall, the Seguin High School Freshman Center, Seguin High School Goldie Harris Gym, and then the new Seguin High School in the fall of 2017. Mr. Reyes was also instrumental in numerous campus improvements, such as the installation of security cameras at all the school sites. Some of the passages of bonds and other funded generating programs that Mr. Reyes took part of was the 1997 bond of $22 million, the 2002 bond of $36 million, 2008 bond of $35 million, 2013 bond of $83 million, and the most recently the tax ratification election here in September of 2016. Mr. Reyes is a veteran and is married to Linda Reyes, and the two children are also Seguin High School graduates. Mr. Reyes, once again, I'd like to say it's been an honor, a pleasure, and a blessing serving time with you, taking myself and others under your wing and explaining to us the ropes of the do's and don'ts that come along with this. And I want to say thank you, and God bless you and your family, and enjoy your time. And I know you will still continue to be involved in this community, this school district, and for the children of the state of Texas. So Mr. Reyes, thank you very much. Mr. Reyes, would you like to say a few words, please? Please.
Good evening. Today is a special day for me. And thank you everyone for joining us. My voice is going away after all. But for joining us on this happy event. And there are many out there that are probably happy that I'm retiring from all these years. Most are happy because they appreciate that my family and I have given many years of service to my community and to the children of our school district. But I must be honest and tell you that there are some out there that are happy I'm leaving because they don't agree with me or what I stand for. And that's okay. But the main thing I have always tried to do is to work together for the betterment of all our community and students. I've always liked a quote I once read which states, if you want to go fast, you should go by yourself. But if you want to go far, you should go with others. I've always preferred to go with others than to go far. And since 1992, when I first came on the board, we have gone far as a school district. We have gotten better and made significant advancements in many ways. I would like to thank my colleagues that served with me for their hard work, dedication, and leadership. They were instrumental in our progress. And there are some board members that we all knew, and that I still hold dear to my heart. And these are Patricia Irving, Dolores Garrett, Kermit Westerholm, Dick Tatum, Irma Lewis, and Nancy Aya. May they rest in peace. They deserve our appreciation and honorable mention for their dedication and leadership. I owe a debt of gratitude to my friends and colleagues, but most of all, I owe my deepest and heartfelt appreciation to my family, my wife, and my children, who in many cases did without my presence because I may have been tied up with school board meetings and other community matters. In thinking about the main characteristics that make a good school board member, or for that matter, a good public servant, obviously, dedication, leadership, experience, and knowledge are high on the list. But to me, caring is the most important characteristic. And as a quote I once read, people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. And it is indeed true that time goes by real fast when you're having fun. And public service, besides being hard work, also needs to be fun and rewarding. And it was one for me. And I can tell you that I always knew that as long as I did my school board work, and the decisions I made were based on what was in the best interest of all of our children, I would not go wrong by thinking this way. In closing, the message I would like to leave with my colleagues who will continue their service on the school board, and to my friends, President Ismael Flores and Superintendent Stetson Rohn, is that you should enjoy the journey, for the destination will be there before you realize. I have nothing but love and appreciation for everyone. Thank you and God bless.
Thank you, Mr. Reyes. All right, any comments or questions from the board members? I know all the board members were at the reception here an hour ago, so thank y'all for your kind words. So hearing nothing else, we will now move on to the next agenda item. This is audience with the board. We have one individual ready to speak, Ms. Denise. I always mess this up. Creighton. Creighton. Thank you. Yeah, my apologies. It's great.
No worries. I have no notes, so fingers crossed on how this goes. So,
It's maybe have 5 minutes. It just seems to be
in getting ready for the board meeting today, we were all able to download something that looked like this from the internet. There was a packet that you could look at as well. However, the packet had very little information beyond what was here. So I made a few phone calls. I called the office here to ask questions about a couple things here, and no one could help me. No one could tell me what TASB Localized District Update, BBD, BBF, and CW were. I could look up what they are now, but I couldn't look up what the change was. The change could be, from our perspective, the change could be anything. Then the rumor mill starts to go when you post an agenda that doesn't have very much information. So suddenly, approval of an organization chart becomes, hey, somebody's getting a promotion with a big raise, and all of a sudden, some of these other things become so much more than maybe they are. I want to give you an example. I gave the same example when I was here last time. The very first time I spoke in front of the board when I was a teenager, Mr. Reyes was on the board. Dress code. We didn't have to guess what the school board wanted to change in the dress code. back then there was no internet. You went and you picked up an agenda packet. It was a literal packet. You had to go down to the central office when I was in that little building and pick it up, and it was like 20 pages long. But it said, this is what it is, this is what we'd like to do. It was very helpful, and it really calmed people down. So when we read something like, one of these items, it's so helpful if we knew what it was. My other example is the city's agenda, and if you look at the way that they do it, I don't know if they have to do it that way, and I know that you guys don't have to do it this way, but I'm asking you to consider it. So for instance, on the agenda it just said Sebastopol, discussion of Sebastopol, possible action. That could be anything. We're going to burn it down, we're going to sell it, we're going to turn it into, whatever. However, when you clicked on the agenda packet, there was a nice letter there from Jack Jones that said, the following organization has asked to do this. Here are the pros, here are the cons, this is my recommendation. He's the director of Parks and Rec. The next attachment was the organization that was asking for a special thing. They were just asking to have some fees waived. Their letter was in there. There was another letter in there. No stress. We know exactly what it is. No rumors, no people on Facebook saying they're going to sell Sebastopol at the next city council meeting. So, like I said, I know that you guys are doing what you have to do, but I'm asking you to do a little more to make it easier for people to come and speak like I'm speaking now intelligently. I was able to call my representative and find out what those things were, BBD, BBF. She had to read them to me. I wasted a lot of her time where it could have just been in there. And it would have been easy, and I could have compared it. If it was something that I wanted to talk to you about, I could have done my homework and talked to you intelligently about it. So I just ask you to consider putting more information into the agenda packet as much as you legally can put in there. Thanks.
Thank you, ma'am. Mr. Rowe, please take some notes and we'll go to this transparency. Sure. Thank you. Okay, that will conclude the audience with the board. So it is now 6:58. We will adjourn this regular meeting before we go into a public hearing. It's 6:58. This meeting is adjourned. All right. It is 6:50. It is 6:59. We will now call this order to a public hearing. This is the public hearing to present Vogels McQueen's Potlands District's Target Improvement Plans. Ms. Rowe.
Okay, I'll do it like this. Okay, good evening, President Flores, Secretary Reyes. Congratulations on your retirement from the board. I know you've served us well. And board members, Superintendent Rome. Good evening to all of y'all. I'm going to go over a little bit about why we're having this public meeting here tonight. First, during your current school year, if you anticipate your district's going to be staged in the Performance-Based Monitoring and Analysis System, which is a long set of words that say if the state of the TEA has a set of criteria that you must meet that you don't get tested on, but different other states, and they compare it to the state average or their state range, then if you don't meet those criteria, then they anticipate that you will be staged. We were supposed to get that information today from the state, well actually on Monday from the state, but they sent out an email this afternoon saying that they're not going to release that information until November 14th. So I'm going to let you know that we anticipate getting staged, so that's why we are continuing. We assumed we'd have that information, but since we don't, we're going to put anticipate in there. But we anticipate that there will be some areas of weakness that we'll have to work on, and we will be addressing those in our targeted improvement plan. We have different kinds of improvement plans. First, there's a district improvement plan, which is just things that you guide yourself on. You say, we do a needs assessment. These are things we see that we need to improve on, and we have that, and that's on our website. Then you also have a targeted improvement plan. That's where you pick out very, very specific specific items. Typically 1 to 3 if you're a campus level, and 6 to 10 if you're a district level, because the district reflects all of the campuses. So therefore, we're looking at that. Additionally, you have Vogel and McQueeney. Since they are former IR campuses, they have to have a targeted improvement plan. And since currently Pot Lawn is designated as an improvement required campus, they need to have one as well. So you go through what is called a TASE process, which that's a targeted, let me see here where they are, Texas Education Agency Accountability System for staging. And we went through that, and we now have presented our targeted improvement plans. So here we go. We'll start with McQueeney. During our training for this, they said if you're a former IR campus, you just go ahead and look at the one that you didn't meet from year before. So you'll see that this is going to mirror what happened last year. They had 3 goals last year. They have 1 more goal this year to meet, which is going to be looking at their writing goal and making sure that we get our students from the 50% range to the 70% range. We have some specific interventions that we're going to do. I did not list them all, but some of the highlights are the instructional staff will plan meaningful, rigorous writing instructions with emphasis on the TEKS, incorporating our SIF strategies and Fundamental 5 strategies, determining writing levels of students based on Calkins' teachings, and then also checkpoint data and writing samples to drive instruction and tutorials. Next, we have Vogel. Vogel had 3 goals that they were working on last year. They have refined their goals. They came very, very close, but they have 2 goals that they're still working on. One is the passing rate, again, on our writing, and the other is the bilingual passing rate in the area of math. Some of the things that they're going to do, again, they're going to look at the Calkins reading program using checkpoint data and sample expository writings for targeted writing tutorials, provide training, and strengthen their Tier 1 intervention using math checkpoints and CBA data. There's some of the highlights of what they're going to do. Pot Lawn is new to this process, and so you'll see that they have 4 goals that they're looking at. They have the passing rate on writing, which is going to be, you'll notice, our district goal as well. Passing rate on Index 1 in math, reading, as well as science. And you can see here some of their interventions. Again, the Calkins, you'll see that's a district initiative, so you'll see that on all of them. Looking at our at-risk math students, determining math levels, retaining and implementing a balanced literacy program with fidelity, use our checkpoint data and our 5E model, and working on our academic language. Last, you'll see the Seguin ISD. Last year we had 10 goals. We met, I believe it was 4, but we went ahead and added 1 other goal. We wanted to make sure our writing goal was in there, so that was added. But you can see we're going to look at our STAR alt participation rate. We're going to look at our special education performance. We're going to look at our bilingual and ESL students. Our system safeguards report shows that state average of student achievement in various 4 core content areas at specific grade levels. So you look at specifics there, and you'll see them across when you look at our annual goals. And then we're looking at the African American population. Oh, I'm sorry, I skipped one. Completion rate for males in non-traditional CTE courses needs to go up. And you see here where there's a range that the state gives you, and we want to get to within that range. The African American subgroup and the safeguard standards in reading and math, just barely below. And then also the system safeguard in writing, which was one that we didn't have last year, but we have added it for this year. And look at some of the interventions that we have. We're going to be looking at training for our art committees. We're going to look at 100% of our special ed students in classrooms where they have the inclusion, where they have certified special ed teachers that come in and help them out in the classroom instead of bringing them out of the classroom. We're also looking at sheltered instruction for our bilingual students, best practices, strengthen our Tier 1 instruction, developing marketing materials to focus and highlight non-traditional opportunities and strengthen recruitment strategies. Look at our tiered instruction for our African American students, district-wide professional development in writing, and to support the instructional coaches and trailblazer that will grow and support teachers and impact student achievement. Now, all of these must be turned into the state. They must be approved by the board prior to turning them into the state, and the state will read over them and we will go through it with them, and then we'll move forward from there. Okay? And I did want to remind everybody that we anticipate Pot Lawn will not be part of this process come December. So come December, we'll have, come next May, we won't have any of us in this
Will
situation.
we have to resubmit that? Because we haven't been there now, but if it doesn't, are you gonna, what's the...
Well, what happens is we have what we call an ISAM system, and that comes straight from TEA. It's a secured server, and they send you, and you download it into their server and upload it, and then they upload it, and then they give you a call and you go over it.
Understood.
Okay, and then we've already been assigned a monitor from the TEA, or a support staff is what they call it, so that will read over our information and then get with us. I anticipate we won't have any problems with that. When we go through the training and build these plans, the TEA people are right there with us, as well as the Region 13 Service Center. So we were there together and built the plans, and they've already been looked at once.
Before I open it up to the board members and then the audience, my assumption is, and of course, please keep us posted as we go throughout the year on our progress on this. Any questions, comments from board members for Ms. Rowe?
Yes, I have one.
Yes, ma'am.
Just so that the public is clear, it's my understanding that Pot Lawn is under appeal because they found a 16% scoring error in their scoring. Am I saying that correctly?
It wasn't 16%,
What was it?
but it's a little bit more complicated than that. You can't
Okay.
just assign a specific number because it's more of a formula that TA uses. So we sent off 16 or 18, I don't remember off the top of my head, but tests to the testing system, and it came back that there were some incorrect. Some were passed when they didn't pass. Didn't pass and they should have passed. Some were they met commended rate and they had scored them as non-commended. So all these things go together into this formula. And once you plug them into the formula, then it gives you a number. And the magic number is 28. Before we sent our test in, our number was 27. Now that we sent those in, got all those results back and refigured, you get, so many points for having a student that was commended, so many points for one that's not, so many points for if they were economically disadvantaged, so many points if they were Hispanic, or all those things play into this formula. So it's not as easy as just saying, oh, we had this one student or we had this. It all plays in together. So when you refigured the formula, then it came out that we did meet.
But the point being they found errors, so it's under
Correct.
appeal.
Correct.
And my last question was, just from my own understanding, on the interventions for the district number 4, it says provide sheltered instruction. What does sheltered instruction mean?
Sheltered instruction is just where there's certain strategies that you use with people who are attempting to learn a second language. For example, if you were saying new vocabulary, you would have pictures of that. You might have a video of it. Simple things like that that go above and beyond so they can make those sorts of connections.
Okay.
That's just the type of...
And that's what sheltered means, using different medium to get that idea across. Okay, thank
And
you.
there are more strategies than that, but that's just one of them.
Right. Great, thank you.
Any other questions from the board members? Okay, one more question for board members. This is a public hearing, so I will open it up to the public. I will ask, are there any questions from the public? Once again, are there any questions from the public? And one last time, are there any questions from the public? Okay, hearing none, for the record, Ms. Ron, thank you very much for the presentation on this public hearing in regards to Vogel's McQueen's Potlands District Target Improvement Plans, which is required by the state. Thank you very much, ma'am. We will close close this public hearing. It is now 7:11. All right, we'll call to order this regular meeting, and it is 7:11, so we are now reestablishing the regular meeting. So we'll move on to the next agenda item. This is a consent agenda item. This is a consideration and possible approval for the consent agenda items as listed. Do we have a motion and or approval, or is there any item that needs to be pulled for discussion?
So moved.
I have a motion for approval of the consent agenda. Is there a second? Second, motion is made by Mr. Reyes and second by Mr. Guerra. Is there any discussion? Again, hearing no discussion. Motion is made and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. No opposition. Motion passes. We will now move on to the next agenda item. This is the action item of the 2016-2017 salary increases. Mr. Roman.
Mr. Hilberg?
Mr. Hilberg, will you please, Dot, yeah. Ms. Whitman and Mr. Hilberg, please.
If y'all have any questions, we'll be going through this.
Good evening, President Flores, Mr. members of the board. Tonight we're bringing you recommendations for the 16-17 salary increases for all employees with Seguin ISD. There are several topics that I would like to bring forward to give you a comprehensive review. You did get that information in your board packet on Friday, but I wanted to make sure you had some specifics as we go forward. Tonight, the board is considering one of the largest pay raises for employees in the past 10 years. For teachers, we are recommending a minimum of 4% raise, starting with new teachers at a starting salary rate of $45,500. That's $500 higher than our previous starting salary. At year 5, teachers will be earning a salary range of $49,400, which will be the second highest paying rate in our comprehensive comparison area. And I'll list those schools for you in a few minutes. Same for year 10, we'll be the third highest at year 15. And you know, as members of the board, in the past when we brought salaries recommendations to you before, we always do that comparison. It's very standard across the board with districts. We don't compare every single step. We pretty much gauge where we need to compete better, whether it's entry, mid, or at the end of the salary schedule. So that's what we're trying to adjust as we go forward. With this increase, we will see an overall average of a 5.8% increase. So a minimum of 4% for each step, for each teacher, but an average of 5.8. So where we saw some discrepancies with our teachers that have years of experience from ranges year 5 through 15, even up to 20, some of those teachers may be seeing an increase anywhere between 4, 5, 6, 7, and somewhere in the low 8%. And those are very significant to get us to that second comparison with our competitors around the area. Those districts include Schertz, New Braunfels, Comal, Hayes, Navarro, Marion, San Marcos, Lockhart. We still compare it to some of our districts that are in our UIL district, but when we look at who we lose teachers to or who we compete with, you know, we don't lose teachers to Marble Falls unless they're relocating and vice versa. So although that's our UIL district, we look at those and we're still pretty competitive with those districts, but we truly look at our competitors in our regional market. Other recommendations include a 4% increase for all campus administration, and that's principals and assistant principals only. You know, we have other support staff, but those principals and assistant principals although the other professionals work very hard, those two positions at each campus see the highest accountability stress on their shoulders day in and day out, and they are responsible for the safety, well-being, and academic success of all kids. 3% of the midpoint for all other professionals, that would be, for instance, the support staff that are professionals, either at the central office or at the campus level. Also, a minimum of $1 for our clerical and auxiliary staff, and I'll go into detail a little bit more on that. This is this includes approval of the compensation book, and when I talk about going in detail, I just want to explain a couple of those areas in the auxiliary arena that we are looking at proposing for the increase. Each of you got a copy of this. Is very standard. This is our compensation book that we have and that we produce each year that will reflect raises. And when you look at that summary sheet, which is page 2, or page 1 actually on the numbered page, that every year it gives you a quick summary of what happened that year, what were the raises like. So I can go back to our compensation book 5 years ago, flip to that page, or look at our electronic file, and I can say 5 years ago we did a 3% across the board for all employees. So this gives somebody who might come in new an idea of what's happening every year. The next page would be posted on our website. That is actually the teacher pay scale for the bachelor's, master's, and counselors. And you could see, and those are all reflective of the 4% or higher increase for the teacher pay raises, and that's what that reflects. Those are all based on 187 days. So if you have employees that work more than that, for instance, our counselors, those days are reflected at the bottom, and they're paid accordingly to those days based off of a daily rate. What we do every year is if there's changes in the compensation book for the board, we highlight in yellow. So on Friday, you got the copy of the changes. So that way, there's a lot of things that are just going to be consistent. Positions don't change. But if there's changes, we highlight them in yellow. Obviously, every year the rates change periodically. Whether it's about an average of a 2% change. If we see a significant drop where we need to compete, we'll adjust those. But TASB guides us on keeping a formula base so it changes systematically every year unless we see a dip, and I'll show you an example of that. So in the professional arena, some of the positions that we looked at, as you know, our CFO changed this year with Tony coming on board, and he kind of revamped his department on what his need was. And based on what he used to do, and then how he could share some of those duties, and then what he felt that department needed. So you'll see some of those highlighted there in yellow. Also, as you know, we went in-house with our food service. We had contracted those directors before with Chartwell's, but now they're ours. So you'll see them reflected as well. And then we recruited a very talented high school band director. So we changed that position. It used to be a 220-day. We changed to 226. They do work year-round, pretty much similar to your athletic director. So we showed that that change as well. Also, you can see in the areas of our chief academic officer, that position is a reclassification of a position. As you know, we changed a lot in central office. We went from approximately 11 professionals in the C&I department, assistant soup, directors at elementary, secondary. We had various coordinators and then 2 other directors that helped with special ed and accountability. We reduced that to a lower number of positions, but in that top arena where we had the assistant soup position and we had 2 directors, 1 for elementary, 1 for secondary, we've combined some of those duties and reclassified that position to Chief Academic Officer / School Improvement, because that position still is over the school improvement arena. So it's a reclassification of a position. It's not a new hire. We've absorbed those duties internally. So that's the reflection of that, and that position is placed on our compensation book accordingly with those job duties. If we go on, and I'll ask questions, if there's questions at the end, I'll be happy to answer. We go on to the paraprofessional, and you can see that's highlighted, the pink pages. I just highlighted if there was a significant change on maybe the entry rate, such as the starting rate with our instructional aides. We moved that up to $11 an hour. On page 6 of that section, we added the pre-K grant, which allowed us to expand some positions, which funded some family specialists. So you can see those highlighted. We revised how we were running our tech labs at the elementaries. We went from teachers running those to our paraprofessionals so we could utilize dollars in intervention areas. Also, again, in pay grade 5, you can see those 3 positions also were within the business department. And they weren't added positions, they were just really revised our job descriptions and what those duties entail based on the skill levels of the folks there. And they're doing a really good job. In the next section is green. That is our manual trades, and no really significant changes there. Just some of our entry rates. We wanted to become a little bit more competitive, especially at our entry with custodians and grounds. That's a tough job. And we do compete with the city sometimes with that and other school districts. Our entry is $11 an hour. However, they're compensated if they have qualified experience coming in. Food service department probably saw some of the biggest increases. We recommended a $2 an hour increase. Some of our food service assistants were starting out around $8 an hour, and that was just not feasible for them to make a decent living. So we increased the entry rate to $10 an hour. And you can see systematically where it went up for pay grade 2 and 3. Also, our former high school manager, Lisa Zepeda, who's very strong in food service and on the running of the shows, in the cafeteria serving kids. We redirected her position to be a field manager. So she goes and trains our new cafeteria managers, so she could be a support there. So we feel like that was a good move, utilizing her strengths as running that large cafeteria at the high school. And she still is a support staff for that and very involved with the design of the new high school cafeteria. One of the most exciting is the next page is transportation. As you know, with Eagle Ford Shell, over the years we've battled trying to keep drivers. We increased our starting rate from $11 to $13.25, and that's one of the highest in the areas with our competitive school districts. So our drivers received a $1.80 per hour increase. They're super excited. They felt, very valued. They shared that with Mr. Round last week. So we hope that will help retain and maybe recruit some new drivers coming in. Again, that's another very sensitive position. You have to be highly skilled, and you're transporting kids every day. So those are the changes. The rest of the booklet just gives you information on what stipends look like just in general. So you can flip through that, and those are all general things that have been ongoing throughout the years. So with that said, we have an overall impact of approximately $2 million to fund the increases, and I think through our estimated cost of $2 million, it should be funded through our general fund, our food service fund, and special revenue. And I think Tony's got detail if there's questions on the budget side of that, but if there's any other questions, I'd be happy to answer that at this time.
Yeah, Doc, before we get to the dollar side of it, you and I know, Mr. Reyes knows for the last 5 years I've been asking for a higher increase for the paraprofessionals and support staff. So administration, thank y'all for recognizing that. As you're aware, yet they have to pay the same insurance as everyone else, and their salaries are obviously not as high. So good job. Thank you. We'll open up to board members. Board members, do you have any questions for Ms. Whitman before we move on to Mr. Hilder? Okay. Fair enough, Doc. Thank you. Tony, you're up.
Well, I'm certainly here to answer any questions you have. I can guess what some of them might be. If you'd like, I'm happy to preempt the questions. How would you like
So,
to?
well, I saw Mr. Thomas raise his hand first, so we will start from this side. Mr. Thomas, please.
Okay, first of all, we're excited about the opportunity to give teachers a raise, to reward the teachers we have, and also to draw talented educators going forward. But more importantly, we want to ensure that our budget can afford the $2 million roughly impact it's going to have for not only this year, but going forward. I know you've got some information to share with us. Can you elaborate specifically on how that's going to impact the budget, not only this year, but going forward?
Yes. Well, we certainly want to start with how it's going to impact the budget this year. That's what we have a better picture of in years moving forward. And I say that because from an expenditure standpoint, we can project that out pretty scientifically. And we can also make some decisions internally from the expenditure side. We can adjust staffing, we can work on efficiencies to reduce expenditures. We do that every year. It's something we're always looking at. Those are things that are controllable. There are some things on the revenue side that are not as controllable, and you guys are aware of that, but just to make sure that the public and everyone else is aware of it too. Property values are a big component of the amount of revenue a district is able to generate, and property values are subject to change over the course of time. They could go down in the future. So projecting that out in the future is sketchy at best. Not to mention daily attendance. Average daily attendance is a direct component of state funding. And where we have a pretty good picture of average daily attendance as it stands right now for this year, we don't know what it's going to be a year from now, 2 years from now. So the revenue side is where it gets very difficult to project out sustainability. So what do we do? What would any district do? What would any prudent organization do? You estimate conservatively on the revenue side. And so if we estimate conservatively but realistic based on trends, over the course of the past many years, Seguin ISD has had a trend in ADA that's been fairly flat. A little bit of growth, sometimes a little bit of a drop off, but not significant in one way or the other. So that's what we're doing. And as far as property values go, property values have trended up modestly, but they have trended up. So we've reflected that in our revenue estimates for future years. But all that being said, where we are this year, with the TRE passing, the district was able to generate an additional, it was hoped that it would be around 1.4 million. And it's still hoped that at the end of the day, at the end of the year rather, the district will generate 1.4 million, perhaps even more. But right now, with the property values that we have based on certifications from the appraisal district and backed up by what you'll see in the tax levy, we're looking at more like 1,280,000. That's what we're looking at was generated directly from tax collections only. But I take that back. That's a combination of tax collections and additional state funding associated with the 2 pennies that come along with that TRE. Okay, so the TRE impacts not only tax collections, but it also does have an impact on state funding. Now, so the obvious question is, if the impact of the increase, the wage increase is 2 million, and we've only generated 1.28 million in revenue, how are we presenting a balanced budget to you? And it's a very simple answer, and it's a very open and honest and transparent and truthful answer. The additional roughly $600, or you could even say $700,000, is associated with adjustments, many of which Ms. Whitman has just described to you. Revamping and reorganizing not just the business department, but a number of departments and areas throughout the district. That doesn't mean eliminating jobs. All of this has been done through attrition. So when people have left, we've taken the opportunity to revisit, and it's been a roundtable discussion. No one person is driving this bus, and we're looking at what makes sense with what we have available to spend and what's necessary for the students. And I know everyone wants to do what's best for the students, but we have to do it in a financially responsible way. And so we're trying to balance all of those things. And I want the community to know that the budget that we have with the increase of $2 million, and that's not all associated with wages. It's associated with wages and all of the additional costs that the district will incur along with those wages, various withholdings that any employer has to match. So you can look those up and see what those are, and they add up. But $2 million is the impact of the increase. And with all of that being said, and the adjustments and efficiencies that we've worked very hard and we firmly believe that we can present, we have a balanced budget that is amended. Now our revenue has gone up. We're looking at and this is just, I'm just talking about the general operating fund. but 58.9 million as opposed to the 56.3 million that was originally adopted. Okay, that's on the revenue side. Now the expenditure side, we're exactly the same, 58.9 million. We're not anticipating at this point in time any hit to fund balance with the expenditures that we're looking at right now. But please understand, this is a balanced budget. There may be some things, some one-time things, there may be some equipment costs or some things that come up later that would be decisions the board would make that would potentially impact fund balance. But as it stands from an operational standpoint right now, the district could very well end up adding to fund balance because, like I said, we are projecting a reasonable but conservative estimate on the revenue side. So that's for this year. Now what's going to happen next year? It is sustainable. I want to say that it is sustainable, assuming that ADA stays relatively similar to what it has been, and property values continue to trend up relative to the extent that they have in the past. So those things being very important. I think anybody should understand that. But yes, we can certainly continue to do this. Now, could we go in next year and do an 8% raise? Well, let's be reasonable. No district, no organization can do that every single year. But that's not the goal, or at least to my knowledge, it's not. So sustainability has to be tempered with reasonableness too. But yes, we can continue to fund the wages as they are right now and continue to operate, and things will be dealt with, and properties will continue to be maintained appropriately.
Very good. Yes, ma'am. Yes, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Hilberg. I'm just going to go ahead and throw this out. I saw on Facebook where I think there may be a misunderstanding. Someone said at one point, I thought you didn't have money for salaries or something, and now you do. And I think the public may not understand the process between, when the budget's done, when the last year ends, when the new budget ends. If you say it's not in the budget, that doesn't mean it's not going to be available or it's not in the bank, but that we somehow magically manufactured some number. So if you could speak to, someone had the impression that we didn't have the money and now we do, what the process was from the budget through the TRE and the timing, and kind of in a simplified overview.
I'll do my best. There's nothing simple about state funding, but what I will say is that when you adopted the budget initially, there were no funds available for raises. That was the case then, but that was why you did not adopt a tax rate at $1.04 on the M&O side. You chose to try to adopt a tax rate at $1.06 because there was no money available for raises. That was the point of the TRE, and that triggered the TRE. And so you had to go through the process. There's a whole legal process. Dates are very specific, and there's nothing anybody can do about it. You can have any CFO you want to, you can have any board you want to, but it's still going to be the same. The state's going to mandate that. So you go through the process and you wait and you see, and the voters decide whether they approve of that additional 2 pennies. Now, once you have that, the decision is made, then you can revise the budget or you can leave it the same. Had the TRE not passed, you would not be seeing these wages go up right now without making the decision to go into fund balance even further. That would be the decision that you would have to make. But you don't have to make that decision now. But it's only because of the additional revenue associated with the TRE, and there's really no other, I don't know how to make that more straightforward. I hate to see that there is a misconception out there that there was money on the table that was somehow hidden. There wasn't. And if you look at the budget as it stands right now, it's gone up by roughly $2 million. And we're telling you that $2 million is the cost of the raise. And if anybody wants to come in my office and look at the spreadsheets, we've got it down to every single person. We know exactly what we're going to spend on wages. It's $2 million.
Thank you.
To the punch. Yeah, Mr.
Yes.
will all the increases be retroactive to first day of school, or will it only be the contract labor individuals?
All the raises will be retroactive to the start date of that individual's contract. So there are different start dates for different classes of employees. Some start in July, others August, and others September. So the impact will be dependent on the individual.
So you could roughly say that we're going to spend upfront a little bit more this first month?
Absolutely.
And then just for clarification, because of the money we're spending here and the lack of any other additional funds, we are not doing a supplemental this year at all.
That is
This
correct.
is more of the supplemental type, because we're going to retroactive.
And said another way, if I may, I would like to share with everyone has always said this is a one-time supplement. But we've said it, and we've said it, and we've said it. And it's time that we stop saying it. If it's not going to be a one-time supplement, then just call it a supplement. But if we want it to be a one-time supplement, then let's put it behind us. And here's why. It's a disservice to the employees. And I got the one-time supplement too, so I'm not up here as I'm up here as your CFO, not as an employee receiving the supplement, because I liked it, just like everybody else. But the problem is, it does not go towards your retirement. It doesn't calculate in to your retirement wages. And what's more is, when you say, let's do a 4% increase, that 4% increase is based off of your base wages. And so if you got a supplement the prior year, the 4% is not off of that supplemental amount. And if you do that for 5 years in a row, that adds up. So we're saying, look, let's roll in, and we're gonna increase the percent and maximize the dollars that are available, but push it into your real wages. And everybody gets the same amount of money. You could have done a 3% again and give them a supplement, but at the end of the day, that's really a disservice. And you're not doing that with this plan.
So this is actually benefiting their retirement.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
And I know how long you've been working on this. I know that it's been taking some time to calculate and come up with the exact numbers, and I know we've challenged you with that. I just want to thank you, because these teachers, this staff, these employees, they're all well deserving of this. It's been a long time coming, and I'm glad to see that we're not just doing a disservice to our employees anymore. We will be in the top 2 and 3 classifications with most of our teachers, and I hope that one day in the near, and I mean very near future, that we can be number 1 in the area, so that we bring in the best of the best, because that's what these kids deserve in this district, is the best educators we can give them, the best people we can be able to give. And I just thank you for yours and Dot's hard work at this. And I know that's a lot of time, a lot of number crunching, but I did have one person say, well, I'm getting a 4% raise, but all 4% is going to go to my retirement. Well, I'm not a very great math guy, but I am a math guy, and 4% of 4% is not all of the 4%. So, I mean, you may have some questions come up about how much it's actually going to go towards that, or how much it's going to cost. So I just want to let you know what I've heard, but I greatly appreciate all your time and effort there, and I do persuade any person that's concerned about the numbers to come and visit Mr. Hilbert, because he is very willing to sit down and go over it with you and explain it in great detail. So thank you, sir.
I would only ask, please make an appointment. We're fair at this. We want to answer the questions, but it's
Mr. Hilbert, Ms. Sewell and Mr. Hope beat me to the punch. There's been some misconception out in, of course, in social media, but imagine that, and the community. But I'd like to say, you brought up a good point. In the past, and you and I, several of us have been on this, have been part of this ISD family for some time. There have been some times where we couldn't give a raise, and we had to dip into the general fund. So you make the comment that we're not doing that today, so that's good. I want everybody to understand that. There's a process that has to be followed, and year in, year out, we continue to follow this process, and you noted that. At the time, we didn't have the money to do this for a raise in the summer. Hence, we went to the community and taxpayers for the TRE. We've streamlined, and you mentioned another good point. Like any business, large corporations, you streamline, there's attrition, obviously there's monies that come into the pot and which can be used for this. So you are correct, the board did charge Mr. Rowan and this administration to provide better wages for our employees, to make them feel wanted, and I think this is definitely a right step. But at the end of the day, I want to thank the community that came out to vote for this TRE, that voted yes, and for the ones that didn't, obviously they have reasons. I think it was kind of confusing too, the way it was written. But this is for the hardworking faculty members here. So good job. And once again, I want to thank the community for supporting this TRE. So with that, do I have any other comments or questions for the board members?
Yeah, I
Yes,
have one
Sam,
more.
yeah.
Would you address the long-term, like year after year, what the TRE will bring in, that this is, how it's sustainable?
The TRE is a one-time, the tax rate on the M&O side went to $1.06. It'll stay at $1.06. The way additional revenue will be generated is on continued property value growth. And we've seen that over the years, and that's with any district, with any community, as properties appraise at a higher level or are developed, the revenue comes along with that. So that would be the sustainability of it.
Great, thank you.
You're welcome.
Yes, sir, Ms. Gill.
I'd just like to thank you for clarifying all of this. There's been a lot of rumors. I even got some questions on my phone, people calling. If this was going to be a one-time, assured them that it wasn't. That's why we had the TRE passed, that's sustainable. One of the things that Mr. Rome was asked when he was hired, that we wanted our scores to go up and we want our employees to have competitive wages. And that's one of the things that I went around telling people to vote for this TRE. It was all about competitive wages. So thanks. And thank you, Mr. Rome, for making it happen. And most important, thank the voters because they're the ones that voted it in. That wouldn't have happened without them. Thank you.
Mr. President, I so move
Yes,
to approve this salary increase and move forward and expedite payment to the.
Yes, sir. Motion made by Mr. Holmes, there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Guerra. We have a motion and a second. No other discussion?
Yes.
Yes, sir, Mr. Ron.
I'd just like to close with, again, Tony, I challenged you to try to come to the table with some things, and we had never in our district done a TRE before. 300 districts did it in the last few years, 300 plus. But what's important is that we understand the formula was pretty simple. We refinanced bonds on the debt service side. That savings exceeded the amount of money we needed to pay our debt back. So we went to the taxpayer and we asked them to shift the pennies from one side to the next so that we could get more money to take advantage of being aggressive in our debt service sales. Now that's a summary. But the big thing is that when I came here, the board gave me some pretty simple tasks that they said I needed to get done. And I want to make sure that we're clear. Our teacher salaries, in general, 18 months ago, we were in about 6th or 7th place out of 6 or 7 districts. With these actions and with the courage of this and the support of the community and the diligence of the people that on either side, it doesn't matter to me, we've been able to go from 6th or 7th to 2nd or 3rd. That means that we are more competitive for teachers that want to come to our district. And so instead of being 6th on the list, when they go down the list for our principals out there recruiting, and I'm going to give another handout to the principals that are here, they get to now not be 6th on the list when they select candidates and when candidates come to them. That's very important. And our food service folks that are dressed in uniforms appreciate the $2 and we're going to continue to strive to meet the goals that this board sets through me to pass down to the rest of the group. So again, Tony, I'd like to say thank you, and this is truly a great time to be manager. That's right. Thank you.
Good. Thank you, Mr. Rowe. We have a motion and a second, so all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. No opposition, of course. Motion passes. Thank you all very much. Thank you, Mr. Rowe. Thank you, Mr. Hilberg, Mr. Whitman. Next agenda item is personnel action for professional employees. Ms. Whitman. All right, that is your deputy next. Okay.
Yes, sir. Mr. Flores, Mr. Rowe, members of the board, we have 3 new hires that we'd like to bring forward for approval. Ms. Joyce Race will be at Potlawn Elementary, 6 years experience, took some time with the real estate industry, decided to come back into teaching, hit us at a good time because it was, we'd already had school started. So I'd like to recommend her. She's a Texas State grad. Also Nicole Hedetta. She's also a Texas State grad, mother's an educator in our district, so comes from a family of educators. She would also be at Potlawn Elementary doing 5th grade math, as well as Rachel Kubina, who's a TLU graduate, with an emphasis not only in math but also ELA. So she is going to be a brand new teacher though, so we'll provide those supports for her and Nicole. So with that, we would like to recommend those 3 individuals for hire and acknowledge the 2 resignations listed.
You've heard the recommendation for administration. Do I have a motion? So moved. Motion made by Mr. Holzer, second by Mr. Ray. Is there any discussion? No discussion. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. No opposition. Motion passes. Thank you, ma'am. All right, let's see. And with that, Mr. Rowe, do we need to go into closed session for anything?
No, sir.
Board members? Hearing that, no need to go into closed session. And so with that, we will now adjourn this meeting. It is 7:47. Thank you all.